Hey guys, it's Rosa here. I hope you're all having a lovely day. I'm here today to share with you a quick update on what I have been sewing and knitting recently. And I'm looking in front of me and everything is pink. Except for one thing, which is red. So it's in the pink colour family. So this was completely unintentional. I have always loved pink, but it's only sitting down getting it all ready that I realised there is a lot of pink here in front of me. This week is half term, so I'm actually going to be doing lots of sewing. I've given myself a day where I can just sew, and I'm really looking forward to that. So there should be another video coming up fairly soon after this one, but I have been busy, particularly with my knitting. And also my baby clothes making. So I thought I would film a little video here for you now, and then hopefully the video won't be too long after it with a few more things that I've sewn for myself. So often in my holidays I'm finding I get more sewing done, and then in term time I'll do more knitting. That's kind of the rhythm that I'm falling into recently, and I think that that's because sewing takes up potentially a little bit more time, not so much per project, but I do find that with my sewing I like to be able to sort of sit and dedicate a few hours to it, as opposed to just pick it up for 20 minutes here or there. Of course, yeah, living in quite a small house, I have to like unpack everything and then pack it all away. So that sort of lends itself more to the holidays where I have more time, whereas knitting I can just pick up and do it just for 10 minutes. So that works quite well during my term time. But anyway, should we get cracking? I'll start off with what I've sewn for myself, then I'll do what I've sewn for babies, and then I will do my knitting at the end, because I'm sure not everyone who watches my channel is into their knitting in the way that I am recently. So I put that at the end, and if that's not interesting to you, that's fine, you can skip that part. Anyway, let's get started. So the first thing I would like to share with you is a finish make, which is this red button down skirt. So I made this skirt from a fabric which I picked up off Walthamstow Market when I was out with Harriet. We had a really lovely day. It was a really cheap fabric. It's sewn up actually pretty well. I'll show you the back. It seamed really nicely, and the seams pressed open really nicely. There was a little bit of snagging, which you often find with a cheaper fabric like this, but actually I don't think that it detracts from the overall look of the finished skirt. I think it's a really, really flattering shape. I'll put some pictures in so you can see, and it moves really nicely. It's quite slim on the hips, and then it flares out towards the bottom. This is the pattern which I used. It's a Simplicity pattern. It's still in print if you'd like to get it yourself. So it's Simplicity 8019. It's one of their 1970s, you know I love the 70s, 1970s vintage patterns, but they've reissued it. It says that there's 4 views. There are not. There is one view, but it does have 4 different cutting lines. So you can make it midi, you can make it knee length. So you can make it mini, you can make it knee length, you can make it midi, or you can make it maxi. I went for the midi length, and you can see in the pictures the length has turned out really nicely on me. I'm just under 5'5", so a fairly average height, and the length is actually really, really nice. I did do a very narrow hem on it, that said. So if you were taller or you wanted to do a wider hem, you might need to go for, maybe lengthen it a little bit when you're making this pattern. The buttons which I put on it, I just got from eBay as one of the job lots. I'll do that so you can see. I often go on eBay for my buttons. I find that it's a really good way of getting quite a lot of buttons for really quite a reasonable price. But yeah, I didn't do the buttons all the way down, so you can see I left it open from just above the knee to the bottom, and that kind of it wears a bit like a split in the skirt, which is kind of cool. I've seen quite a lot of these skirts in the shops, and I just think they're lovely. Yeah, super, super flattering, and isn't that just lovely artwork on these envelopes? I really love vintage patterns. I really wish that they still made them, like the pattern envelopes, this pretty, because I guess photographs are more useful, but the drawings are just so nice. It's nice to have both, I think. I'm really tempted to make the mini version now. It's just really cute. So I did, C, which is the midi, but I kind of like the look of this one. I don't know, the little mini. Could be kind of fun and cute. It's great. It's very flattering. The front is in 4 panels, so there's 2 center front panels, 2 side front panels, and the back is in 2 panels. So it's 6 in total, going all the way around, and obviously you do your button placket. It's a really easy make. I wouldn't say it's a beginner make purely because it's got the buttonholes, and often they are one of the hardest things to get your head around when you're learning to sew. I know I absolutely hated doing buttonholes. I still don't really love it. I'm still doing them like holding my breath, just waiting for it to all go wrong. And only one of these went wrong, and actually luckily it was like a low down one, so it's not so obvious, but it did go wrong. So but when you're doing, how many did I do? 12, I think. Yeah, I did 12. So I guess it's the odds are fairly high that one's going to go wrong when you're doing 12. But anyway, that's my first make. Really, really pleased with it. I think I'm going to get a lot of wear of that. The weather has been super mild, so yeah, fingers crossed. The next thing I'm going to share with you, I showed you this a few weeks ago when I did my plans video. I showed you the fabric, so it's not finished, as you can see. So I haven't hemmed it, I haven't pressed it, and so you can see this neckline's looking super puffy, so don't worry, it's not finished yet. I know that it's not quite perfect. But this is the Neilson Suddely dress. If you've not seen the pattern before, it's adorable. So it's a reversible smock dress. I've been really inspired by loads of people on Instagram making and wearing just the cutest smock dresses. All the girls who work at Tilly and the Buttons, who all just look adorable all the time, they've all been wearing and making these adorable smock dresses, and I was like, I want one too. And I have made a Suddely dress a few years ago out of Tana lawn, but I thought it might be nice to make a brighter one. That one was just navy blue, and it's lovely and it does still get worn. But this fabric I picked up on eBay, shocker. And so this pattern is still available. The fabric is a vintage fabric, so you may find something the same or similar. I will leave a link to the seller that I bought this fabric from down below, because I would just highly recommend bookmarking searches on eBay. Like, that's what I do. Although it's dangerous, you do find some good things, and I love using vintage fabrics. This is a wool mix Liberty print. It's just stunning. I love the colours. I spent ages like stood over my fabric I cut out on the floor, and I spent ages stood over it trying to decide which angle it should be cut from, like where the top was and where the bottom was, and I just kind of decided in the end it didn't really matter. So I hope that you're not looking at this thinking, oh my god, she's cut that out upside down, because I really tried for ages and I just couldn't work out which way was which. I chose to do this little tie. Again, it's all puffy. I haven't ironed it yet, so I need to give this all a really, really good press out. But yeah, I pressed a few seams as I was going, but this is the last thing I did, and I haven't actually pressed that yet, and the neckline. I lined it with this fabric, which I got from Loving the Fabric, from Wonderful Gay, who runs Loving the Fabric, and it's quite a nice subtle blushy colour. I kind of thought it was quite similar to the background of the wool blend fabric, sorry, so I thought that would yeah, work quite nicely. So you can have the bow at the back and have it like this, or you can have the bow at the front and have this sort of keyhole shape, and I don't know, I think I'll probably wear it both ways. It's kind of, yeah, it's a really a lot of fun, and it even could be layered over like a white polo neck, perhaps, if it has warmed up quite a lot. Spring seems to have come quite early here this year, but I mean, it probably won't stay. This often happens. It will get really warm, we get really excited, and I actually have been unpacking some spring clothes and sort of hanging them up, but I'm not getting too excited. Like, I've still got jumpers just on hand. It would be that we have like the shortest winter ever, the year that I actually learned to knit, but anyway, never mind. So that is the Neilson Suddely. Oh, I haven't told you about the sizing, sorry. So with this one, the Simplicity 8019, this runs in vintage sizing. So I remember making one last summer in linen for my honeymoon, and it was so small and I had to let it all out again. So what I did for this one, I am usually in Simplicity patterns and in ready to wear a size 10, a UK size 10, which is a US size 6 for reference, and a European 36, I think, yeah, 36. And so I cut the size 10, but I sewed it all up with 1-inch seams instead of 1.5-inch seams. And then I added, I think, an extra 2 inches to the waistband. So I think I cut the waistband at, yeah, 31 inches. And then you lose 1 inch of that to seam allowance and 2 inches to the overlap. So that is a 20, on the waist it sits at 28 inches, which is just about right. Does that make any sense at all? Basically, what I would recommend doing with this is toiling. I think if I'd have done this properly, I would have trialed it, and I'd probably need to have made the 12 or potentially the 14. So if you are thinking of making this pattern, just be warned, you may need to go 1 or 2 sizes up. I would, yeah, highly recommend trialing it, or I think the best bet, because it's not a tight fit over the hips, is measure the waistband pieces before you cut it out and compare it to a waistband piece that you already have that fits you really nicely. Bearing in mind this has the overlap at the front, so measure something that has an overlap at the front. And then make your decision based on that, because yeah, this comes up quite small. So for the Megan Neilson Suddely, this actually comes up really big. So not really big, but larger. So I made the smaller size. I made the extra small, and it fits me perfectly, exactly how I would like it to. And that's lined. It also comes up quite short, but that's just me. I only seem to wear long things these days. I feel like my style's changed so much just in the past like 5 years. I used to be all about not very short, but fairly short, like fit and flare things. And now I'm loving midi length everything. So I just find it more flattering. But you know, I still love short dresses. I just think they probably look better on other people than they look on me. So yeah, this one just come up quite short and quite wide. Anyway, so that's a little bit about the sizing. Next, I'm going to talk about some baby sews, and I love them, and I've not got anything to show you. I'll put all the pictures in here so you can see. So I became a godmother to my best friend's baby, so that was extremely exciting. And I made him some lovely trousers. We actually, for the christening gift, all gave our favourite children's books, which I thought was a really nice idea. But his mum had let me know he needed some more leggings because he's growing so quickly. So I made some using the Stop and Still jerseys I showed you last time, and the images will just be running through here so you can see all the Stop and Still leggings. This is the Patterns for Pirates Petite Pegs. I made a couple of pairs in the 6-month size, and also but the majority in the 9-month size, because he's growing so quickly. And actually he's already able to wear those, and the good thing with the leggings is they do stretch, so they do last for quite a long time. I made 2 pairs for a blog post with Lamazi Fabrics. So very kindly they wrote to me to ask if I'd like to work with them putting together a blog post, and they let me choose from their website of fabrics, and they have so many really cute kids fabrics. I knew I wanted to choose from their jerseys because their jersey collection is just amazing. And I went for 2 very sort of, one very nautical one, because my friend lives in Cornwall, so that worked quite well. So it's this red stripe with little fish on, and it's just so cute. It reminds me of like Baby Bowden or Mini Bowden, whatever they call it. Yeah, super cute, and a really nice quality fabric. And I also made 1 pair with little crocodiles on, and I just love that they're like classic striped jerseys. You know I love a stripe, but because they have the little characters on, they're just, really adorable. So I really love them. So thank you to Lamazi Fabrics for asking me to join in with you. I'll leave a link down below to the patterns that I'm talking about, the petite pegs, as well as those fabrics that I chose. They're just great. I cannot get enough of that pattern, and because I've made so many petite pegs at this point, I think I got it down to like half an hour. I can just like churn them out. So I spent an afternoon a few weeks ago. I think it took me 3 or 4 hours, and I made 6 pairs of leggings for this for little baby fox. So that was really good fun. So and I just make them on my regular sewing machine. I trim down the seams, and I'll leave a link to the blog post that I've written for Lamazi Fabrics, so you can read a little bit more about how I went about putting them together. It's not hard at all, but it might be an interesting read. And I do recommend checking them out. They've got some lovely stuff. So that's my sewing that I've been doing. As I've said, I have got some planned for this week, so do check back soon. Make sure, if you would like to see any more sewing from me or knitting, then do make sure you subscribe to my channel and click the little bell icon as well, and you'll get a notification as soon as I post, and you can see what my half-term sewing has been looking like. I'm going to chat a bit about my knitting now, starting with what I'm wearing. So this is the Trefann Sweater, which I mentioned again in my plans video, and I've used this really beautiful colour to knit it. I just saw this in John Lewis. It was not what I was looking for, but it was in a chunky, super chunky. So the super chunky yarn, and I just fell in love with the colour, and that's pretty much what did it for me. It has been pilling a lot less, although as you can see, still a little bit. But it has been pilling less than the Rowan yarn, which I used for my lovely green Wool in the Gang sweater. which is, yeah, so this is great. My only thing with this jumper, I love how it looks. I think it looks so cute. I love these sleeves. So it's got this kind of puffy sleeve, which you can see like that. Is that actually getting a coat over this is not easy. And I do have one coat which is kind of cocoony shaped, and that fits over it quite well. But even then, I mean, it's not easy. So I probably won't be making any more of the super chunky knitwear. I think chunky is my favorite type of wool that I've used so far. And the other things I'm going to show you, I have used chunky yarn. As opposed to this super chunky, like enormous stuff. I think my favorite needles at the moment, this is a bit of a weird thing, but my favorite needles are like a 6mm or a 5. So I'm not quite, well, I'm definitely not not quite there with using is it called double knitting? I think my mum was saying she uses double knitting, which is like a 4mm needle. So I think I'm going to work my way down, if you know what I mean, from like so I started with like a 10 or a 12 even, and then I went to the 6, and then eventually I can do an even finer one. But some of the details that I do like about this sweater is it's got this interesting sort of texture at the top. I really like the neckline. It's knit top down, which I love, and seamless is just my absolute favourite way to knit now. I have been spending hours on Ravelry. It's just the best website if you want to get into knitting. So I've had a few people get in touch with me on Instagram about just like getting started with knitting, and again, it's kind of the bug has only just caught me, so I don't want to give anyone the wrong information, but get on Ravelry. That's what I would say. It's so inspiring. There's so many free patterns that you can just read to kind of help your understanding, because I'm like a big geek, and when I'm learning anything I just want to read everything I can get my hands on. I find it's just really, really helpful, and every knitting pattern designer seems to write patterns slightly differently. But yeah, I got this pattern on Ravelry. This wasn't a free pattern, but it wasn't expensive. None of the knitting patterns that I've come across have been expensive at all. They're really, really reasonable actually. So yeah, this is lovely. I'm really, really pleased with it. Again, I think this is probably my last super chunky knit because of the whole getting coats over it issue. But my next thing I made is this one. So if you follow me over on Instagram, you will have seen this. I shared it on Valentine's Day. And I finished it just before Valentine's Day actually, and this is my favourite weight of wool, and actually I love the fit of this jumper. I'll put some pictures in of me wearing it. I chose to cast off with like a contrasting red, which I think looks really cute, and I did the same at the bottom of this sweater, so you can see I repeated that little heart motif, and I also cast off in red. This I learnt to knit on a course which I did with Blueprint, so I'll leave a link to the course down below. It's an amazing course. It's called Choose Your Own Sweater Adventure. Loved the name. I wouldn't say it's like the best pattern to follow if you've never followed a knitting pattern, but for me, like for my I think this is my third thing I'd ever knit, it was just right, because there's certain stuff that I think is better to practice on like a more basic pattern. But actually the good thing with Blueprint, of course, it used to be called Craftsy, but now it's just called Blueprint. I think the difference is that on Craftsy you would buy the course and own it, whereas on Blueprint you pay a monthly subscription and you can just you can just stream anything. So you can it's not paying per course, it's like paying per month, which it suits me just fine. Yeah, and I decided as part of the choose your own I'll be very articulate, as part of like the choose your own adventure thing, you literally choose the neckline you want, you choose the yoke detail you want, and then you choose the fit that you want. So I obviously chose to do a colour work yoke, and instead of following her one, I designed my own one because I knew I wanted it to have hearts on it, and I chose the cropped fit and I chose the crew neck. So yeah, that's literally how I did it. And it was an absolute joy to knit. This is the Suddely #1 chunky yarn, and it has worn, I've actually worn it quite a lot, and it's worn absolutely fine. There's no bobbling, no pilling, which I'm really pleased about. It does have a very defined stitch. I probably wouldn't use it again for colour work. For that reason, I think I'd probably want to choose, that was just a bit of that green fluff from that jumper that just pills everywhere. Yeah, I probably wouldn't use it again for colour work. I think I'd want something with some amount of wool content, but again, for my first one, my first colour work jumper, I couldn't be more pleased with this one. So this is 100% my favourite thing I've knit. I just I love it. And it's kind of cute for spring, right? I feel like it will work for spring. And the last thing I knit is this, and it was the quickest thing ever, even quicker than knitting a scarf, because there's just not that many stitches to it. So I actually made up this pattern myself, just kind of playing around. I ordered a ball of paint box yarn. This is called the Vintage Pink colour. I'm obsessed with their yarns. They have so many beautiful colours, and I think they're definitely going to be the yarns that I choose to use for my next project, sort of sweater wise, particularly the wool blend. This is the wool blend, so it's 50% wool, 50% acrylic, and it's such a lovely colour. I'm putting my head really weirdly close to the camera, but yeah, I just love this colour. It's one of my favourites. I made this pom-pom as well, using the little you know, the little clover pom-pom makers. So yeah, I'm gonna have hat hair now, but I just made up a pattern. So I cast on 57 stitches, and then I did just a knit one, purl one, rib, and then just knit all the way. And I just kept trying it on till it was long enough. I think it was 7.5 inches that I knit up, and then I just did decreases sort of round in a spiral. So just knit 2 together, knit 1, knit 2 together, knit 1, until I was left with like 2 stitches. And then I finished it off with a pom-pom. And I think most of the pom-pom hats that you get in shops have like giant pom-poms, which I do like, but they kind of annoy me that they sort of bounce around on top of my head. So this one's kind of cute, because it is pretty tiny. I didn't really realize when I was making it, I was like, that actually does look kind of small on the top. But yeah, I kind of love it. So that's just, it was a really quick make. It took me just an afternoon, this one, because this is their chunky yarn, chunky wool mix, in Vintage Pink. And yeah, this is my favorite yarn I've used so far. I just think like I was saying about the color work, I think having that bit of wool content gives it that slight fuzziness, which would mean that the color work kind of just blended together a little bit better. I don't know, could be wrong, but anyway. So those are the things that I have been knitting, and a couple of bits I've been sewing as well. I have been feeling really creative recently, which has been a really nice feeling. So yeah, I'm hoping that in the winter I'm often quite a lot less productive, because you know, you get into that kind of cozy routine, perhaps sleeping more and eating more than being creative. So I'm hoping now that the weather's starting to warm up, be making some interesting things. So yes, as I said, I'm on my half term this week, so do check back soon to see what else I've been making. Let me know down below what you've been making recently, and if you have any questions, if anything was unclear, please don't hesitate to ask. Just drop me a comment down below and I will always try and get back to you. So yeah, that's everything for today, guys. Thank you ever so much for watching. Please do give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I will see you again very soon for some more sewing and knitting, I hope. All right then, see you soon. Bye.